So picking your class in Guild Wars 2 is probably one of the most influential things that you can do. And here in 2026, there's a lot of information around each individual class. My goal in this video is to focus only on the new player experience for choosing your class and finding the one that fits right for you. Ideally, by the end of this video, you'll find the class that fits your playstyle and you'll know which one to choose first. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more Guild Wars Reforged and Guild Wars 2 content. All right, let's go ahead and focus on the heavy armor classes, that being the Warrior, the Guardian, and the Revenant. Starting out with the Warrior, essentially, the Warrior is the I hit the things with the stick class. The idea of the Warrior is that he's an aggressive melee combatant that focuses on building adrenaline, which is the profession mechanic. As you attack, you build the yellowish bar that's right above your skills, and then it channels into one massive burst, and then the cycle repeats. And each weapon that you can utilize has the capability of having a different burst attack. The pros of the Warrior, of course, is that it has a incredibly high amount of health, it has some of the easiest rotations, and access to just about every weapon in the game. I mean, I think the only ones that they can't use is like Scepter and Focus. Now, some of the cons of the Warrior is that it can be boring. If you like the magic and the, we'll say, kind of like wizardy feel, you are not going to find that anywhere here with the Warrior. It's very straightforward, but it can be boring if you like other playstyle. My honest opinion is that the Warrior is one of the most fun classes. It has a lot of spin to win, if you feel me, either with the double axes, the great sword, or what have you. However, it is possibly one of the most forgiving classes. There's only one other one that I would say is the most forgiving, but it does a very good job of onboarding for new players. Now moving on to the Guardian, which, I mean, you could honestly just call it a Blue Flame Paladin. That's basically what the Guardian is, and it's kind of like the teacher's pet of Guild Wars 2. I'll explain that in a minute. So the profession mechanics for the Guardian is the virtues. So it's by default F1 through 3. It's a passive buff that you can activate for instant damage, defense, or healing. Passively, they offer damage, defensives, and healing. Now, again, as I mentioned, they are a bit of the teacher's pet in Guild Wars 2. Essentially, they can fit and they are sought after in almost every single game mode of Guild Wars 2. Raids, PvP, World v World, Strikes, Fractals. I mean, it is fantastic in almost every regard. It has a ton of block, which is very important in this game. It offers a lot of core buffs that really let it sit into many different groups. Very, very well sought after. Some of the cons is that it can be a little bit squishy. It has some of the lowest health pools in the game. However, it can rely mainly on its active blocking, not necessarily face tanking. My consensus is that it is a very good choice for a new player. It will always have endgame viability. You'll never really have to worry about finding a group in endgame because it is almost always sought after if played right. It's a safe bet. Honestly, if I go through this entire list and you don't know what to pick, this is a good one to pick. Moving on to the last one of the heavy class, which is the Revenant. Now, the Revenant is essentially the like edgy ghost channeler of Guild Wars 2. So its core mechanic is legend swapping. You basically get to channel the famous dead people from Guild Wars 1 to change your skills entirely. Essentially, it's like the demon is for damage, the dwarf is for defensives, the centaur is for healing and protection, things like that. Some of its pros is that it's really, really aesthetically pleasing, flashy visuals, but it is also very versatile if done correctly. It is put into the right hands with the right build. It can be very, very fun. Some of the cons is that you have to manage an energy bar. Think like a rogue in World of Warcraft, which it can be a bit annoying. Sometimes it can feel complex. Now, my consensus is that it is pretty high maintenance in my experience. And if I'm to be 100% honest, it is the least played profession that I have in this game. However, I do know many people enjoy the Revenant. They enjoy the gameplay and they have lots of fun. So really play this one if you like to press a lot of buttons. All right, moving on to the medium armor classes. These are we'll say the stealthy, the dodge rolling, the like unique survival type classes, and also one that just blows everything up. Starting out with the Ranger. The Ranger is essentially what you would expect to be a naturalist. So, I mean, the pet, the bow, it can use other weapons other than a bow, but the pet and the bow is kind of like that's what you do. The core mechanic, of course, is the pet. You have permanent control over an animal companion that tanks for you, deals damage, it stuns, it does a whole bunch of fun stuff. And the skills change depending on which type of pet that you have, so that's a fun thing to note. The most important pro is that it is possibly one of the easiest open world classes in the game. without a doubt, you have a pet to tank for you. It's very chill. The cons are sometimes your pet pulls enemies that you didn't want to fight, and sometimes the AI can be a little bit wonky with that, but for the most part, it is decent. My consensus for the Ranger is pick this if you like kind of like the chill leveling kind of aesthetic. If you have any love for a pet, this class is going to be for you. Moving on to the Thief, this is your stealthy, dodge rolly, you can't catch me ninja kind of class. The core mechanic, the profession mechanic, is the initiative and stealing. Stealing from an enemy will grant you a new skill based off of what type of enemy that was. There are no cooldowns on your weapon skills. You spend initiative points to spam your best moves. Now, this is both a blessing and a curse. It means that you can spam a lot of your abilities back to back to back. However, it also means that once you run out of initiative, you gotta wait a while for it to regenerate. The pros of the class is that it has insane mobility, has a lot of stealth, and has high burst damage. The cons, as you can imagine, is that it's very squishy. If you stop moving, you die almost immediately. My consensus for the Thief is that if you like the high risk, high reward gameplay, then this class might very well be for you. If you don't like the idea of being absolutely obliterated if you stop, then maybe not the best choice. Now, the Engineer is the last of the medium armor, and honestly, it is one of the most, it is essentially a toolkit. The Engineer's toolkit, and you can't change my mind. It's like a really cool Inspector Gadget. The profession mechanic is the tool belts and its kits. You don't swap weapons with the Engineer, you swap the kits out. So you have one primary weapon, baseline you have the double pistol, pistol shield, or rifle, and then you can use these weapon kits like the flamethrower kit, the grenades, the bomb kit, what have you, and you can swap out and use those skills and then bounce back in. And not only that, each one of the skills that you choose has a corresponding tool belt skill that you can utilize depending on which one you have chosen, which is, it can be a lot of fun. The pros, it can literally do almost everything in this game. It can heal, it can tank, it deal damage, condition or damage over time, it can do immediate strike damage, has a lot of different playstyles. The cons is that it can require you to play high APM. It has a lot of different actions if you want to play it appropriately. There are some builds that you could just turn off your mind and just go to town. Most of them do require you to be pressing quite a few buttons. My consensus, I actually really like the Engineer. I think it's a lot of fun. I think it has a lot of really unique things that make it stand out, especially in the MMO niche. It can be high actions per minute, but for the most part, you can get away with playing it lowball. All right, now moving on to the light armor. These are the magic users. These are the casters, which you would think is squishy. One of them is just an absolute like brick house, but these are the, we'll say, unique wizards here in this game. Starting out with the Necromancer. Essentially, you can't change my mind, is that the Necromancer is essentially death incarnate. Its profession mechanic is the Death Shroud. Now, the Death Shroud gives you a second health bar, and when you are inside your Death Shroud and you take damage, it depletes your shroud instead of your HP, which is really, really cool because it also gives you a bunch of different abilities that you can use while you were in Death Shroud that either deal a lot of damage, they crowd control, or what have you. Now, the pros of this is that, honestly, the Necromancer is like unkillable in solo play. It's very, very forgiving. It has a lot of defensive capabilities, not to mention that it can summon minions. It can go into its Death Shroud. There's a lot of different things that you can tackle in the open world and have no problem. The cons, in my mind, I feel like it sometimes can feel slow mobility-wise. You, of course, can change that in some different ways, but I feel like it really doesn't have as much mobility as the other classes, but it's not terrible, let me put it that way. My consensus is that I would highly recommend this. This is one of the best classes for soloing content, and you can be kind of asleep with it and have no problem, but it also has a lot of cool endgame applications. I mean, the Necromancer is always a good choice. Moving on to the Elementalist. This is my main. This is the one that I play all the time. This is essentially Avatar: The Last Airbender. So essentially you swap between the 4 different elements, air, fire, water, and earth instantly. No weapon swapping, nothing like that. You don't get a second set of weapons. You essentially have 20 different skills at your disposal. Now, some of the pros for this class is that it has a very high skill ceiling. Flashy spells, really unique things. You do feel like kind of a melee battle mage. It's a lot of fun. The cons, on the other hand, is that it has very low HP, it has a pretty complex rotation, and the joke is that downstate is part of your rotation. So when you get killed, it's kind of like, yep, that's what you would expect. My consensus is that if you really like playing a piano, this may be a class for you. There's a lot of different skills that you can utilize with any different weapon combination, and you have to remember how they all interact with each other. So it comes with experience, it comes with time, but without a doubt, the Elementalist is one of my favorite classes in the game. It's the one that I've been playing for most of my time here, and I would not change a thing. Last one we have for the classes is the Mesmer. This is the Illusionist. This is honestly, it's one of the more unique ones in MMOs across the board. And that is because of its profession mechanic, which is the clones and shattering ability. You create copies of yourself while you're in combat, and then you shatter them for either high damage or utility. It's really unique because each one of the weapons has some unique way to summon what's called a phantasm, which does something unique. And then after that, it summons a clone, and that once the phantasm has disappeared, the clone replaces and just essentially auto-attacks the enemy. The pros of this class is that it has a lot of unique utility, that has portals, and it brings really good buffs to the game. It can be very fun to play in PvP, especially because you can make people completely lose their mind because they think they're attacking you, but it's a clone. Some of the cons is that it can be kind of a pain leveling because the early game you're kind of weak until you start getting your skills and your abilities, but that usually subsides very quickly. My consensus is that if I didn't play the Elementalist, the Mesmer would be my main. That would be the class that I would be playing. I love the unique idea of the class. I love all the purple, and it's such a beautiful take on what you would call an illusionist in an MMO. It's so wonderfully done. That is all 9 classes that you can play in Guild Wars 2. Now, the idea is to give you just a short snippet, tell you a little bit about the class, and let you make the decision. And I will emphasize, choosing the right class in Guild Wars 2 is arguably one of the most important things that you can do, because that is essentially the lens in which you view the game. The game is great, and I'd rather you pick the class that you think looks like it's going to be a lot of fun, something that you're going to really enjoy, so then that way you enjoy the game as much as I do. Now, what I didn't mention here was that tied to most of the expansions, Heart of Thorns, Path of Fire, or End of Dragons, and now Visions of Eternity, there are elite specializations that change the way that your class plays completely. Now, that's a lot of information for a new player, and I didn't see it necessarily fit. However, you should know that there are even further ways that you can customize and change the playstyle of your game, even after you've hit level 80. Now, if you just want the quick, we'll say the quick pick this for me, make the decision for me, you can click this video here, which will take you to the classes that I'd recommend for just brand spanking new news player if I were to tell you what I would suggest. As always, stay caffeinated, folks.